Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight for Enhancing Wellness Through Stress and Optimal Self-Care Health and Wellness Workshop for Maine. I am the CEO and founder of Maine. My name is Dr. Katrina Shaw. Mammograms is Not Enough Incorporated. And I want to give a shout out to my lovely board members. I have Dr. Melissa Ross as our Director and Outreach Coordinator, Tanya Ferguson, Counsel, and lawyer. We have Andrea Francis, who's our treasurer, and we have Dr. Andrea Alsford, who is our operations manager and secretary for tonight. So I want to thank you. So I would like to tell you a little bit about Maine. Maine stands for, of course, Mammograms is Not Enough Incorporated. We are a nonprofit organization, 501c3. What we do, we provide and assist women who don't have insurance and enough coverage, and we enlighten women on the importance of diagnostic screening. We hold educational resources to promote early detection and prevention. And we also, most of our funding and campaigning goes through our breast cancer diagnostic screening and assistance program. And we have our fundraisers and donations. I would like to tell you a little bit more about myself for those who do not know me. I'm a 9-year breast cancer survivor. And I was actually diagnosed on October 1st, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story and why I birthed the name Maine, Mammograms Are Not Enough. I was very short because I definitely have a long story. I was actually going to a regular appointment and I didn't get regular mammograms. I got a diagnostic mammogram. For those that don't know what a diagnostic mammogram is a mammogram along with a sonogram. Most women get that, and they need to get a diagnostic mammogram for those who have a concern. And because that concern is if you have, I had a cyst in my left breast. If you have a cyst, you have dense breast, any kind of concerns, you should be getting a diagnostic, or the next best thing you should be getting is a 3D. If you're not getting it, you need to ask your doctors about the 3D if they have the machine, and you should definitely be getting a diagnostic screening. So I was going to my appointment. It just so happened that the radiologist noticed that the cyst that I had a hard nodule. So he said that looks like a fibroadenoma. So I said, what is a fibroadenoma? So when we go to the doctor, we have to make sure that we ask questions. It is so important. And what he told me was the fibroadenoma is a benign lump, but it mimics cancer on the screening. So what we're gonna have to do is we'll have to do a biopsy to rule out breast cancer. So when a woman gets a biopsy done, the procedure is for she to get a titanium clip put in to mark the exact location. So I didn't feel comfortable with that, and it was only by the grace of God. I just didn't feel comfortable with the clip. So I told them I would do the biopsy without the clip. And they said, okay, they did the biopsy without the clip. They said, well, we won't be able to go back in and mark the exact location. I said, that's fine. So they did the biopsy. I was fine. Everything was benign. The year later, they said everything was going away. The next year prior, I went for my annual mammogram, but I didn't get a diagnostic because they had switched locations. So I just got the regular mammogram. So they said, well, if we see something, we'll call you back. 2 weeks later, of course, they called me back and they said they saw something. I was like, freaking out, of course. So I go in to get the exam. They keep looking at the same breast that I got the biopsy. And so I was a little bit annoyed. And the radiologist, he was just adamant. He said, well, we're going to look further. So they did a sonogram on my breast. And as soon as they did the sonogram, the tech got the ruler out. And I was like, they definitely saw something because they said that I needed to get a biopsy. And this time when I tried the no clip, they was like, no, you have to get the clip. So I knew God was preparing me that they would have to go back in. So a week or so later, I get the dreaded news that no woman wants to hear that I have breast cancer. My first diagnosis was ductal incarcer invasive breast cancer. And so, of course, I was devastated. I had no family history of the disease at all. So the first thing that a woman has to do when she gets diagnosed, she has to see the surgeon to see what her options were. I was just thankful and grateful that my diagnosis was caught early. But the thing that got me was when the doctor told me that I was so blessed because my radiologist looked further because my mass could not be seen or felt on a regular mammogram screening. Even though I was devastated that I had cancer, I was thankful that I was caught early. But the thing that he said about your mass cannot be seen or felt in a regular mammogram screening. So I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have more options. And I was able to and just plain early detection is the key. So I had more options. Not just so happened it was caught so early that I didn't need any chemo or any radiation. But let me tell you the gist of my one no saving my life. Now, when I told you about why they called me back, they actually called me back because of the heart nodule. But because I didn't have that titanium clip put in, that was why that the radiologist looked further, and he was adamant. And I was so glad, because if I didn't say no and I would have had the clip, they would never call me back. And I could have been walking around today not knowing I had breast cancer. And that's when mammograms is not enough came up. And I birthed my nonprofit. I started out as a blog, and I'm going to continue to educate women on the importance of diagnostic screening, advocate, and do what I can do. And as far as I'm doing now, to educate women that mammograms are not enough. So now that I told my story, I have two phenomenal, great speakers who I met them at the Leadership Experience Tour by Sean Fair in Michigan like 2 years ago. And they're both dynamic speakers, and I'm so excited that they're speaking tonight. So the first speaker, keynote speaker, her name is Dr. Angela Harden-Mack. Dr. Angela Harden-Mack is a wellness expert on mission to serve busy career women, sacrificing their needs while taking care of everything and everyone else. The career women are empowered to enhance wellness through stress relief and optimal self-care to be healthier, happier, and their best selves, enjoying great careers and families. Dr. Angela uses her keynote and books to motivate women to take action to release her stressful and precious superwoman lifestyle. Women who are able to embrace a healthy wellness woman lifestyle live great lives. She has simple but powerful formula that helps women achieve wellness and success in all areas of their lives. Dr. Angela has been recognized as one of the most prominent voices of wellness, of woman empowerment. She is a woman empowerment coach, #1 bestselling author, a global keynote speaker. Dr. Harden-Mack has been featured on an obesity expert in print and broadcast media. Appearances include the expert on WXYZ Detroit, Channel 7 News, and several appearances in Blanc Magazine and Ask the Expert. Without further ado, we have Dr. Angela Harden-Mack presenting.
Yay. Woohoo! Hello, ladies. Are you excited and are you ready? Thank you so much, Sora, Dr. Katrina, for the invitation to serve you and your community. And I say shout out to B. Jacqueline, a fellow speaker. Yay, we are LET alums. I saw another LET alum in the audience. And to the ladies here tonight, I want to, again, celebrate you and say thank you for joining us. We're going to have a great time. We'll talk about health. We're going to talk about wellness and well-being, and get those questions ready because it's going to be interactive. And definitely, I'm so excited about B. Jacqueline. And thank you, Sora Katrina, for sharing your story. And I think the ladies may have some questions about that in terms of what do you do and how do we approach it on this side, you know, sharing with the patients from the medical standpoint, and how do we empower patients to be advocates for their plan of healing, and also how you can put resources in place. So I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Angela. So now we are going to have our next powerful speaker, who I'm going to introduce to you, B. Jacqueline Jeter. B. Jacqueline Jeter has been recognized as one of the premier leadership experts. B. Jacqueline Jeter is a highly sought after keynote speaker, best-selling author, and transformational growth strategist. She is unarguably one of the most empowering, entertaining, and voices in motivational speaking today. Leveraging over 30 years of leadership experience in pharmaceutical industry, B. Jacqueline is on a mission to impact audiences and train organizations worldwide to identify, address, and eliminate leadership challenges associated with change, management, leadership development, and team building. B. Jacqueline is a compelling thought leader who champions empowering of women around the world, providing opportunities to build courage, confidence, and connections through workshops, resources, education, coaching. In line with her passion for helping women succeed, B. Jacqueline Jeter found Grow, Lead, and Prosper, a global personal and professional training and leadership development company focused on equipping women with skills and strategies to conquer limited mindsets, to detour them from operating in their purpose and a full potential. She has co-authored several best-selling books, including Journey to Forgiveness, Endurance, Dear Friend, and You Are Enough, alongside legendary powerhouse speakers Les Brown. So let me announce no other than the B. Jacqueline Jeter.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Katrina, and congratulations on your honorary doctorate. And thank you, Dr. Harden Mack. It's great being on the same platform with you. I never knew when I met Katrina in June of 2021. Little did I know how God was linking us, because in June of 2021 is when I was in Detroit for the Leadership Experience Tour. And then August 26, 2021, my whole entire life changed. That's when I got the diagnosis, that call, invasive ductal carcinoma with metastasis to the lymph node. And it was very shocking. I had two sisters that passed away from breast cancer, but it was just different circumstances. I didn't think that was ever going to happen to me. And I mean, I worked out every day and had two different trainers and ate well and things like that, and did other things you're quote unquote supposed to do and whatnot, but cancer doesn't have a respect of person. So it was shocking to say the least. And after about 30 minutes of me crying, why God me, why does this happen to me now? And had that moment. I'm a scientist by career. So I got myself together, called the nurse navigator back, and I let her, when I said, she said, you let me have it, because I asked a lot of questions anyway. So I had like 15,000 questions and things like that, because I started researching stuff for myself. And so I will say, in this journey, even though I knew advocating for yourself, and Dr. Harden Mack already kind of mentioned that, and Dr. Katrina said that as well, advocating for yourself, but also knowing your body. Because and all that working out, I had a big blowout workout that day before. My arms were all sore, and I was in the shower, and I felt like a little kind of spongy, like hard, like nodule, like here under my axilla, right there where the arm kind of comes together. And I've had like a little spots of it before, but they were like fat, you know, we're getting old, we're women. I had like fat, it was like a little piece of hard, it's just hard and fat under the skin. And so I kind of thought that was what it was. But I'm also very, very meticulous about doing my breast exams at least once a month, but definitely usually like twice. I do them in the shower. And I felt this weirdness in my breast, and it wasn't hard. It felt almost like a marble, but it wasn't hard. It was like it was kind of moving around, and I felt it was kind of strange. And I've been told before mammograms, and I always got a 3D mammogram, especially after my sister, when my sister's passed at 49. I always had mammograms, and had a diagnostic mammogram because I didn't need one, so to speak, at that time. And I was told that time I had fibrocystic breast. And so when I went on to research that, because I always Google everything, it looked like the like, if you see your breast, you see the mammary glands come out and they had like little bulbs at the end. That's what it kind of felt like. So I thought, maybe that's it. And let me just tell you how God is, because all this is happening in the month of August. It's kind of started around the beginning of August, around that time, beginning of August. And what happened was I had a mammogram already scheduled. And when they called and they asked you, do you have any changes? I told them, they said, we're going to cancel your mammogram, see your doctor so they can make sure you get the right kind of mammogram. Thankfully, I already had my full yearly physical on the books with my PCP, which takes a lot to get. So I had it all in the books already for over a year. So everything fell into place, and she's very good. She listens, and I asked her a lot of questions as well. And so she was able to get me in and whatnot, and push came to shove, you know, there we were. Mammogram, yes, we see something kind of suspicious. Ultrasound, we're going to do a biopsy, do the biopsy, and then it comes back invasive ductal carcinoma. And so one thing I knew at that time is like, I have too much to live for, and I'm going to live. This is not going to take me out to my sisters. One died at 49, one died at 72 or so. I had the genetic test. There's nothing that was linked there. I didn't have any kind of genetic markers, which is good. And Dr. Hart may get to this, but usually the incidence of breast cancer there's more instances of breast cancer that are not linked genetically than they are that are genetic. And it wasn't the lottery I was trying to win, because 1 in 8 women have are diagnosed with breast cancer. I really wanted the one with the money, but I don't think God heard that particular prayer. But it's been a journey. And so I remember my doctor sent me to my surgeon. And what I did is, when everything started happening, I learned a long time ago from one of my former prayer mentors. Her name was Karen Lassiter. She said about praying specifically. And I'm a woman of faith, and I believe in the power of prayer. And being a scientist, I researched all the possible things that could be, because my cancer was caught. I caught it early, thank God. And we went to see a surgeon. She's like, it's early, it's treatable, it's curable. Let's get going. And I asked anybody that touches my body, anybody that comes into contact with me, I want the best that you ever have created at this particular facility. And that's what I got. There are symptoms and signs and symptoms of drugs and things like that. These are the facts. This is the truth that I know. So I had my prayer circle around me to pray specifically. And a lot of those things I didn't have. I did have some strange things that happen. And that's because I did say, Lord, whatever I go through, let it lend to the body of research for African-American women, because there's not a lot of research in certain areas for us, especially in breast cancer. We are usually the least diagnosed with the greater but the more percentage or more apt to die. And that has a lot of other issues that come in because of that. And so this journey has helped me to really truly become a voice even the more. I said before, I'm a clinical researcher. I'm actually working in oncology now, which is, funny, just how things have kind of laid out this whole journey. But was it easy? No. But one thing I've always learned is my parents always told me, my mother always said, a good heart doth good like medicine, a merry heart doth good like medicine. And when I came in to see my surgeon, and I love to laugh. So when I came in to see my surgeon and whatnot, and we were taught different things, and she was taught the different aspects, that if the actual genetic test came back positive, she would suggest a mastectomy. And they can now rebuild your breast through fat from other parts of your body. I think go through a series and things like that. And I was like, you mean I could have bodacious tatas and a slim waist? I might work out okay. But that was the thing. She says, you're going to be okay, because we can give you every drug in the world. But if your attitude, your mindset, your perspective, and your outlook is not good, it affects your entire body. I think we already know that, because God already tells us, as a man or a woman thinketh, so is he. So I was thinking, I'm not dying. I'm not going to die. I got a lot more to do. So I had to look at the positives and change the perspective. Instead of why not me, or why me, I had to go through and just really think about the fact that I get to go through this. I'm 57. This happened when I was 55. My sister didn't make it to 55. I have friends who didn't make it to 55. I have people who had probably a better prognosis than I did. And they're, almost, you would think that they've had recurrences, or they've had other issues. So the key thing I want to stress here when we talk about stress and wellness is knowing your body. And this is not a dress rehearsal. This is the only body we have. And a lot of times we do too much damage to it. Research it, get a dietitian, talk to a physician, Dr. Harden-Mack, about things. Look at things naturally, because there's so much stuff in our food and things like that. So one thing I learned throughout this journey with food, I lost a whole lot of weight. I'm starting to gain it back. I don't want to do that. But I lost a whole lot of weight because the things I couldn't eat, because the chemo changed my palate. I couldn't eat anything with sweet in it and anything with sugar in it. And one of my very favorite dressings, which I didn't think had sugar in it, apparently did, because that was repulsive to me. So my mouth was like a sugar detector. So little things like that helped me to get where I am. But the biggest thing was really researching and asking questions. Both my physician and my surgeon and my oncologist definitely said that. They said, we love the fact that you have a lot of questions. The nurses were like, what questions do you have today? I'm like, I'm glad you asked, because I have this question. And it kept them on their toes. Because a lot of times, especially when you don't advocate for yourself, you may not be here. I have a good friend who is younger than me. Her father is Asian. She's also a scientist. She graduated double major from Duke in 3 years. So she's brilliant, but she knew something wasn't right with her gastrically. So she kept going to the doctor, and they kept telling her she had IBS. And she's like, nah, something else. Like Dr. Katrina was saying, it's something's not right. So it was something else. And she ended up having stage 3 colon cancer. But she advocated for herself and got the right treatment, because the treatment they tried to give her, or they were prescribing for her, is the standard they always give everybody. So everybody can't take the same drugs. A lot of times it's thought in the medical sphere, because of different things from, historically, from things that happened to ancestors and stuff like that, about pain measurement, that we can take more pain, but really we can't. So there's a lot of things, especially as Black women, especially women who have triple negative breast cancer, which I don't have, and I'm not going to go off of that standard, which I didn't have. I don't have any cancer at all, because I'm cancer free, and I'm also cancer resistant, meaning it can't come back at any time, anywhere in my body ever again. So I just a lot of things that we have to do, especially in as African American women, and maybe some other women on here, other races, but as African American women, we have to, one, share and be willing to be open to clinical research. There's not experimentation and that kind of thing going on, because if we don't come and present to clinical trials, then the drugs that be developed for us to save our lives. Because things are such nuances, and now drugs are becoming more focused and specific to certain areas and certain just they become more specific instead of more broad range that they have been in the past. But for my journey, I did have to go through chemo. I went through 8 rounds of chemo, and I went through about 30 weeks of radiation. And this time last year, I was just getting done with radiation. I was actually on my way back. I had finished radiation. I was on my way back from Detroit from speaking at the LET. So life changes really quickly, but we have to just be very sensitive to what's going on in our body. So my biggest takeaway, my biggest thing for stress and wellness is I'm thankful I had a very good insurance carrier at that time, because once it happened, they called me, they assigned people to me for mental health, for physical health, to talk each week. Make sure that if you're going through anything, or if you're a caretaker, just reach out to that person or reach out to somebody to talk, because stress can kill you. We've seen it. People have dropped dead from heart attacks. They have, whatever. A lot of things have happened after COVID because of the stress level and all the different things that's happened. Things are manifesting people's lives. So we talk about stress and wellness. Take care of your temple and make sure that you have some kind of outlet. If you walk, if you read, if you sing, whatever you do, get the stress off of you. Journal, talk to somebody, but stress is something that is very, very damaging to our cells, our free radicals. I'm not gonna get into that details like that. But that's one thing that's kept me, is I like to laugh. And I had and I still have a very good support system around me. Am I 100% restored? There's some things that I still have to deal with, but like with some numbness in my fingers and toes and stuff like that, but I'll deal with that because I'm alive and I'm happy and I am healthy. So like I said, this journey has been different and nothing I really expected to have. People have gone through things similar, and I thank God I've been able to help somebody else going through this and to bring light to the experience that we as women, and definitely we as Black women, go through. So I don't know if there's anything else you want me to share regarding this, because I mean, the biggest thing about my life has been my faith. I had zero intention of ever showing anything on Facebook until I was sitting outside the center waiting for it to open. I couldn't get the door open. And I used to do a blog called His Raindrops. And I kept hearing Holy Spirit say, "It's Tuesday." And I'm like, I know. And he's like, "Should you be sharing?" Because I had cut my hair and no one had really, some people close to me. Because I lost like 3 feet of hair, which I love my shortcut now. Before I never could even imagine my life without my hair, really. And so that's something that I went live, and people who weren't going through breast cancer, were going through something else, actually were like, "I can't believe it." And the strength that you have, and it's not any testament to me, it's all testament to the Lord, but the strength that you show. So you never know who needs to hear your voice. You never know who needs to learn your story. You never know who needs that. And I'm very thankful for Dr. Katrina establishing this platform of mammograms are not enough, because they're not. Make sure, ladies, you are getting your mammogram, but also make sure you're not leaving that to the hands of somebody else. Do your monthly exams. And you can, if you don't know how to do it, you can pick up one of those little cards. You can Google it of how to do it, but do them and make sure you know what's going on with your body.
Thank you so much, B. Jacqueline, for sharing. Now we will have Dr. Angela Hart-Mack come back and do her presentation on enhancing wellness and self-care.
Okay, all right. Soror, do you want people to use the chat? I want to see, do I need to monitor the chat for any questions, or you tell me, you ladies, and how you want to do it? So
yeah, they can use the chat, or they can use the reaction with, to raise your hand if you want to, the meeting will take you off of mute. Okay.
Great. Well done. B. Jacqueline, thank you so much. Your presentation is inspirational, informative. I'm taking notes because I want to definitely incorporate things that you mentioned, because What you shared is so powerful and so important. And these are topics that we all need to be mindful of. When we talk about health, and a lot of us are familiar with health, and health typically focuses on the physical body, right? And so we talk about fitness, and we talk about vitality and energy. When we talk about wellness, I want you to think whole, the entire of who we are, body, mind, soul, spirit, and our emotions. So I want us to think about the first thing, move away from just thinking, oh, it's about my body and maybe my body and my mind, but it's all of me. And if you can go ahead and wrap your mind around that concept right now, that it's all of me, that you present there. And one of my favorite faith confessions is, I'm healed, I'm whole, and I walk in divine health. I'm whole. That means when I talk about me and nurturing me, and I want you to think about you, it's your mind, it's your body, it's your spirit, it's your emotions. You are presenting and showing up to the world as a whole woman, beautifully and wonderfully made in his image. You are created for greatness, and taking time to nourish you empowers you to show up to do the great works that you are called to do, to live your great life. You have to have energy to do that. Your mind has to be clear. Your emotions have to be stable in order to do the work you are called to do. No one else can fulfill your assignment in the world. So you want to show up to be the best you. Your body, your mind, your emotions, your spirit, right? You want to show up for that. Now, well-being is a term we hear sometimes, and don't think about, oh, I have to remember all these things today. No, I'm planting some seeds today for you, right? And whatever is going to resonate with you, that's what you will take away with today. Health and happiness, that's how I like to define well-being. Are you healthy? Are you as healthy as you can be? And are you happy? Now, it would be nice if life was always great, right? If we're always skipping through the roses, but you know what? It isn't. It's not if we will have stress. It's not if we will have problems. We will all have them. But how do we respond? Do we say, oh my goodness, oh, life is horrible. We fall down and we stay down, or do we get up? And we know there's some songs about it. We fall down and we get up, Do we get up? When we find ourselves in the storms of life, do we go, oh my goodness, it's not happening? But do we say to the storm, peace, be still? Do we dance through the rain knowing that we're going to come out on the other side? When we're taking the time to, like B. Jacqueline said, we're laughing and we have a positive mindset, these things set the atmosphere and they make a difference. And this is part of self-care. Having a plan in place where we are developing behaviors, we are developing and participating in actions that nourish us. How many people have they're doing some things at least a couple of times a week to focus on their bodies? Are you taking time out to rest? Are you taking a break at work? Do you curl up with your favorite book? Do you have a journal? These things are all important. Your body is the temple. You heard B. Jacqueline say that. And so we need to nourish it. What we eat is important. It makes a difference in terms of, especially when you're going through your treatment, what you eat is important. What you hear is important. And we want to have, to be built up. We can't have stuff that's coming in as negative. What we hear is important. How we rest, how we relax, these things are important. So the activities, the behaviors that we do, we are taking care of ourselves. What you do for you is self-care. Now, we do things alone, right? I care for me. Dr. Katrina cares for herself. Dr. Melissa cares for herself. But guess what? We also come together in community. This is a community right here. Dr. Katrina has organized a community around this very important topic. She has fundraisers. She has sessions like this. She meets together. She is advocating and presenting information so that women and men know, how do we look at and how do we think about breast cancer? So this is a community. People are coming together and they have recognized that time and attention and energy, that's self-care, that this is important. If you're still with me, raise your hands for me. Let me, see if we're okay, we're good. So we do it individually and we do it in community. Who's in your community? Is it your household? Do you have some people at church? Do you have your inner circle? You have communities like this. Who is in your community? And are the individuals in your community prioritizing self-care? We are all unique, so our self-care plans are not going to be identical. So The individuals in your community, someone may emphasize more exercise, someone, especially in the season of life, may need more mental, right? I want to keep my mind clear. I want to keep my emotions steady. I want to make sure my mood is good. Maybe they need more nourishing in that realm. Occupational or work health, that's another category. Maybe someone is going up for a promotion, or maybe someone, has downsizing, and someone's like, listen, you know what? I'm ready to make a total change. So they need some more, resources there. So your plan will not look like the other people in your community, but you want to make sure that you have it. Do you have people in your community? Raise your hand for me, or let's see some reactions. Now, B. Jacqueline said, know your body, and that's important. Thank you, ladies, for I think everybody here's a lady. Know your body. That's right. Know your body. Listen to your body. And there are times when, guess what? We have to be quiet. Yeah, I know we have the phone. Yeah, we like to watch Netflix and Hulu, right? We, read our journals, but there are times it is crucial. It is vital that we need to be in a quiet place so that we can listen. We can listen to whatever, way we describe that voice that we hear. We have our voice and we should be listening to it, but also we receive and we communicate. There are things that we listen for and listen to. And guess what? Our bodies will talk as well. If you have a discomfort, if you have something there, if you are regularly taking time for your body, then you may go, oh, that's kind of, I felt that before. This is mild. I'll just keep an eye on it, and that's appropriate. Or, you know what, this is a little different. Let me think about this a little bit more. Let me feel, let me take, charge. And for ladies, I know sometimes, especially depending on the area we grew up in, this idea of touching our bodies, that's not something that we're comfortable with, honestly. The thought of maybe examining your breast, the thought of maybe feeling your belly, the thought of, especially when we get older, the outer part of the vagina, because there are changes associated with menopause and it can thin and dry. We may not feel comfortable with looking, getting a mirror out and positioning to look, but it's so important. Or if you aren't necessarily at that place, and if you have your intimate partner, then that may be kind of fun too. Hey, you know what? Let's check out, we're adults here. Can I really keep it real? Okay, and I'm a doctor, so I see bodies, so, the mirror, and look at that, because when you notice something that's different, and when you go to your healthcare provider and you can talk, it's going to make a difference, and it's very helpful. You know what, doc, I look every month or once a quarter, what have you, so I know I didn't have that before. This area looks really different, because the more information you can share with us, it really helps. So that we can, as we're gathering information, then we're going next steps. What are the possibilities for these things? So know your body, advocate for yourself. Let me give me some. Okay, keep it real. Someone said, keep it real. I believe in keeping it real. I believe in keeping it real. Care and the preventive exams, very important. Now, mind you, the last 3 years are different, right? The whole world is entirely changed, upside down, topsy-turvy. So we're getting back to what does life look like? So getting into that routine again, going for those preventive exams, important, because the key word is preventive. We talk about screening, we talk about counseling, we look at risk. These are some of the things we do at that appointment, whether it's you go once a year, whether you go once every other year, there are specific things we do at the health maintenance exam. And the idea is to give information, counsel to the patient to help to promote wellness and help to, if there's some things going on, let's identify it and let's catch it early. It could be an ear infection. It doesn't always have to be something that is going to be the big diagnosis like the C word. Again, are there some other things that are taking place? So make sure you have that preventive exam. When you manage the appointment, and this is something where I have patients over the years go, doc, you all only have it seems like we go in a room and then, you rush us out, or I want to talk to my doctor a long time, and I only have 15 or 20 minutes. Honestly, if we could go back to a generation ago, many of us who are doctors, if we could spend, 45 minutes and 60 minutes with every patient, we would, but we can't do that the way the system is set up. So what I encourage patients to do, and I've been practicing for more than 2.5 decades in primary care for most of that time, write your questions down. Think about the 2 or 3 things that are most important for you that you want to address. In a 15, 20, or 30-minute appointment, we don't have the opportunity to go through, more than probably 3 things. That's the reason for the follow-up appointment. That's the reason for it. Maybe we'll talk to the nurse educator here or call in, because we want to focus the appointment, and we want to, ideally, it's going to be a shared task to identify the things that are most relevant to what you need. Let me know if I'm teaching on something that everybody needs to know to kind of, how do I navigate this appointment? Am I getting some things? Okay. I want you to know that, and now as a physician, right? And like B. Jacqueline said, scientists. So we're scientists. I believe in the laws of physics. I believe in that. I'm a woman of God, and I believe that everything that he said, is it okay if I talk? So, okay, that those things are above that. So when we talk about approaching healthcare and we talk about who's here, I believe that all healing comes from him. He is the author and he is the originator of everything. He is the one who has given us the ability to know about atoms and protons, to know about chemical agents, to know about all of these things. He is the one. He is the one who empowers every doctor, every nurse, every pharmacist.
Yes.
And when I tell you, I can't, to see a surgeon operate, would be spectacular. To see a brain surgeon operate, to see the things that God has equipped us, men and women, to do, you look and say it's nothing but him. There is a supreme being. So everything we have comes from him. And when I share with patients and I share with them, it's like, we talk about the plan of healing, and that's how I approach it. Lord, what is the plan of healing for this patient? Whether it is the very basics, what we call straightforward, or whether it is something else. What is the plan of healing? If it is cancer, then there is a specific order that we go through, from diagnosis, confirming the diagnosis, to its staging. This is where it is right here. So these are the things that are recommended, and how the information is shared with the patient, shared with the patient's team. And we talk about the potential side effects because we manage those as well. What is the plan of healing for this patient? Self-care is not just when we are well. Self-care is also part of when we're in the process, in the illness, this is where I was before the diagnosis. I'm looking to go to the other side. Now I'm managing this. So having this plan in place is important as you're moving through this. So the plan of healing and the environment, or the atmosphere, this is so important. Speak to the solution. Speak to the healing. Speak to the joy. Speak to the power, not the problem. Speak to the solution. So if that diagnosis, let's say, is the heart rhythm that's unstable, I speak that my heart is lining up. I speak that what is presented to me for my plan of healing is bringing everything into alignment and bringing about. Now let me walk it out. I'm speaking to the X, Y, and Z. If it's something in my body that is out of alignment, or something is growing that shouldn't be there, I'm speaking line up. And I'm speaking that what has been presented to me is bringing things together. Speak in that atmosphere, speak in that room. And I have gone into a patient's room, Lord God, the people who come into this room, let the speech be positive, let it be uplifting, let it be empowering. If there's anyone who comes in this patient's room and wants to give a negative report, no, we're believing for the positive report. This is self-care. Is anybody with me? This is self-care right here. And this is self-care that's specific, again, in certain ways, to who we are as women and women of color, because I'm bringing into here that spiritual aspect that's so important for us, and bringing it in here because that's part of that wholeness. Your environment matters. And if you find that there are individuals who can't get on board, any naysayers, I need somebody else here. Because there may be times when you may not even be able to vocalize what you need, but your person can. That person, it may be your prayer partner, it may be this community where you can call up and say, this is how I'm feeling. And those individuals can speak that positive report. This is self-care. This is the mindset. This is the inner talk. This is for those of you who believe in affirmations, this is the affirmation. If you believe in manifestation, this is the manifestation of a thought becomes a thing, a dream becomes a reality. You see it before you walk it out. You see it before it manifests. This is self-care. These are practices. I'm incorporating different things here as I'm sharing. Am I serving? Am I sharing what you want? Okay. Talk about the nourishing, and then let me check time. Okay, yep. So I talked about the atmosphere, I talked about the environment, the plan of healing mindset, the comprehensive approach. What do I want to wrap up with? So actively managing that. Having this plan in place is key because you want to maintain and promote your wellness, but this plan is very important when you are ill because it's going to help you to get through the process, help you to get through it, build up your reserves, build up your buffer. And I'm going to wrap up with stress. Stress is something that we all have. It's not if, it's when. Stress is how the body responds physically, mentally, and emotionally to something that may be a real or perceived threat. And in this time, it's like demands. We have a lot of responsibilities and we have a lot of demands. How we respond is important. Put your hands on your head for me, because again, sometimes people have tension headaches and that can be part of stress. Sometimes people may feel worried. Anybody ever walk the floor at night? Anybody ever feel anxious? Let me put up both hands, because there have been some times when I have been worried and walked the floor and we may feel anxious. There is a peace that passes all understanding that can keep us and keep that stress at bay. How many individuals, if you ever had indigestion, if you want to put your hands right here, if you have that, ooh, you feel like, my stomach is kind of like in a knot, or maybe you feel as though I have that heartburn. That could be a sign of stress. I'm not saying in everyone with heartburn, that's it. But I want you to know that stress impacts and can impact everything from the top here all the way through the body. So having a plan in place to manage your stress, avoid the stressors if possible, minimize it, relieve it, important, because as your body is going through this process of healing, if it is in the middle of an illness, stress is tugging on it. It's taking some things away from it. It's taking reserves. So by managing the stress and resolving it or reducing it, it's nourishing the body so that it can fight this good fight. It can heal what it is putting this time and attention to. So relieving stress is important. Have boundaries, take breaks, and to be present. These are 3 things that I share with individuals, just a few of the things that can be helpful for stress relief. So I want to end it here. I know I always like to manage time. And Soror Katrina, tell me what you want me to do next or where we're going. And so thank you, ladies. Self-care plan. All right. Everybody good?
Excellent presentation. And Jacqueline B. Jeter, oh my God, your story was powerful. We can just go right now for questions. Anybody has any questions? Excellent presentation and testimony. So I know someone have questions. Have any questions? Put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand. We could take you off of mute.
Oh, it looks like Karan had a hand up, Dr. Karan.
You can come off of mute. Dr. Karan, she's my other lit sister.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? I just wanted to just give some, how can I say, some encouraging words. Thank you so much, both Dr. Angela and also D. Jacqueline, for sharing your testimony and for just making us more aware of our body. I mean, we can't notice anything if we haven't been paying attention to how our body changes. So I just want to thank you all, because maybe tonight somebody's going to examine their body, find a lump, or, go to their doctor and find out something early, which they never would have inquired about. So it's more so than y'all just sharing your testimonies and educating us. You might just be saving a life, but you definitely have made me more aware of my body, because like you, Dr. Katrina, I also have to have like ultrasounds because I have real dense breasts. And ever since I was 19, I've had a bunch of lumps in my breast. So I've been getting mammograms since I was like 19. So they always have monitored them. And sometimes they do kind of change everything, but they always give me everything's okay. So I'm just thanking God for all you ladies, how strong you are, and how you those that are breast cancer survivors. I thank God, because you're not only survivors, you're also thrivers. So, all right. Thank you all.
Dr. Angela, I like the fact that you talked about how it's not just self-care, but the wholeness of that, because we are holistic. And I think a lot of times we compartmentalize our lives so much that this is Jesus, this is work, this is this, that we are whole and we kind of miss that piece. And I can say this has not been, like I said, it's not been the way I would have directed this growth in my life, but God always knows everything. But the growth I've had in my faith, mentally, emotionally, everything in this past 18, 19 months has been astronomical. So just to reiterate what we said before about just really that self-care of making sure you take time to be quiet, because we are inundated with so many stimuli per minute, per hour, per second, because of our smartphones, because of this, because of that, because we're on Zoom, we're on different things that we didn't have before. And so sometimes we don't realize it. Just something simple of drink your water. So something simple like that. So it doesn't, when we talk about taking care of yourself and taking care of your body, being holistic, our bodies, what in some case, in certain areas, or maybe more, but at least 75% of your body is water. So it needs it. And so just drink water. I mean, something that simple. But I think that I'm impassioned even more so. I was impassioned before with the research I did to be able to make a difference, but I'm impassioned even more so after having been on the other side of the, I said, consent form and the protocol. So it's if there's anyone on here who doesn't feel if they can ask a question, or they want to ask a question one-on-one to someone, reach out to them directly, and don't feel like you can't ask it here, but don't feel like you can't reach out to someone one-on-one and ask them as well.
And that's so important, like you said, being available. And Dr. Katrina, certainly, I think B. Jacqueline just mentioned, and I'm available too if someone wanted to reach out separately to talk. Have to remember that in this capacity, when I share, I'm not operating as the physician for anyone. So we're not engaging in a doctor-patient relationship. I'm sharing information that can serve for inspiration, and then I can assist you in how to frame, like if you want, when you want to talk to your medical provider, but it would just be information and in that regard. But it is important because sometimes, I like to have female doctors, not all of my doctors have been female, but certainly there are times when I have actively looked for that. So it can be important to say, hey, I would like to have another female to talk to. And because sometimes I've heard patients say, I don't think the men really care. Oh, Dr. Angela, I don't think. And you're like, oh, but it really can be helpful to have that female perspective with that. Great question and great comment. Who else? Everybody's so quiet. Usually somebody's like, well, tell me about some food, or tell me more how I can relax or something. You are like, ooh.
Come on now, y'all. We got the wellness expert here. Ask your questions. And you're right about doctors and female doctors. I guess ever since I got diagnosed with breast cancer, like all my doctors now, are female doctors. And I've been through, when I got diagnosed, I was with one doctor, primary, but I went to maybe like 3, of course, of them retiring and leaving. And now my primary physician is the OBGYN, my OBGYN left. And now I'm looking for another doctor. And at first I called and I was asking, I didn't want to be like, I said, I'm looking for a female doctor, an African-American, whatever. And they was basically saying that they couldn't find one, that, that for as a new patient. And then I totally forgot, when someone actually retires, what they do is they end up referring you to a couple of doctors you can go to. So I was so glad I waited, because once they gave me the referral of doctors, of course, I found a Black female doctor. And now I'm not actually going to be a new patient, because I'm actually referred from the old doctor. So,
yes.
So that's to me, huh?
I was say, go ahead.
Yeah. So to me, that I just feel more comfortable with female doctors and African-American.
And for individual, because Sora, you're still in Baltimore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in major cities, for all of the participants here, major cities, it's going to be easier because you will have academic centers and you will have major medical centers, and there's always going to be a medical society. It may even be the branch of the national or the Black Medical Society there. So access to care will be easier compared to if you're in places that are more rural or, again, suburban. So look at that closest academic center wherever you are, and that can be a great starting place for you. And then Google is always literally your friend. If you type in, African-American female doctor, YouTube, I mean, this is the world now. You'll get those resources. Then it'll be, is that individual participating with your insurance?
Well, no, I'll ask a quick question. Dr. Mackey, you talked about the changing of the, I guess, the standard of care in the sense of time you're able to spend with patients. How do you navigate that because I'm thankful again to have had physicians for my journey, and it wasn't a quick 15-minute thing. There were times they sat down and talked to me about whatever, and I answered all my questions. So how does someone navigate that, especially if they're going through breast cancer, but a serious health challenge, because your psyche and everything's all off, and you kind of feel like, what can someone do to help navigate that?
Great. So when we talk about the specialists, and especially in this case with cancer, the appointment times are longer. So all of those appointments were probably 30 minutes, and new patient appointments tend to be 45 minutes to an hour. So the time that you're actually face-to-face, and let me just use physician right now. They're like nurse practitioners, others, but let me just talk about doctors. So the time that you're face-to-face with the physician will be a portion of that. And then there are other resources and health providers that the team or that specialty may enroll. So you mentioned a nurse practitioner, that's a medical provider, and that's a highly trained individual, and that many physicians, we often work with nurse practitioners and employ them in the office. So when you talk about your time for an appointment, it may not always be direct face-to-face with the doctor, but there is a doctor overseeing the care. A portion of that may be facilitated by the nurse practitioner. It could be a nurse educator. It could be other members of the team who will be there to give that information. If it's nutrition, it could be a dietitian who is trained in oncology. So that individual may come to that appointment, or they may refer you out. So become familiar with that particular specialty that you're in, and what is the typical appointment time for that specialty. So if it is a specialist, it will be longer. When we talk about primary care, the appointment slots are usually 15 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe 45 or 60 minutes for a new patient. So if you're going in for your follow-up appointment, it could be 15 minutes. And that means that there are specific things that we plan to happen at that appointment. If you have a list of things that you want to address, or if your medical history already has, let's say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things, the doctor will say, may say, well, what are the 2 or 3 things today that you want to focus on? Or in looking through your chart and reviewing, these are the 3 things I see that I want to review. We'll follow those, and then I want to see you back in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever that schedule is. So you want to know, how does this doctor operate? And the last thing I want to mention is that your appointment, and this is what a lot of people don't realize, your appointment includes, or your care, what we do before we actually see you, what we do when you're in the room, and then what we do outside of the room, your notes, calling the pharmacy, and what have you. So the more efficient we are as doctors, sometimes we may do a lot of that before you even go into the room. I would check my charts 2 or 3 times before I see a patient. So I already have this plan. I already know exactly kind of, where we need to go. So when I go into the room, it's really face-to-face. I'm here, we talk, and we go out. So if your doctor is efficient or has a lot of staff, you still are getting quality care. It's a lot of it, and some of it is done before and after the appointment. Does that help?
It does. I just wanted to get your thoughts and more clarity on that, because I think some people may not understand, because I know that my PCP is about 20 minutes, and most of us laughing, but about something. And I have good friends that are nurses that are retired that are going back to help in certain areas, and they're like, I'm just not used to this, because they want somebody for 10 minutes and then have to go to the next person. So just getting your idea, because I know it does change in different areas and whatnot, and being in a research and a medical institution area, because I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina area, RTP, you have Duke, Carolina, and all the other places around here. it's a little different in some case. It depends on where you go and stuff like that. So because I did have a friend who didn't feel that the doctor was spending enough time with them, so they wanted to get a second opinion on their which is up to them to do that. But I think it was more driven not because they just didn't have the warm fuzzies with the doctor.
It can happen. Really, some of that is going to be, how does that office flow or that clinic flow?
Right.
Because our goal really is, we want to address it and do it. And it's going to be, what's the best way to give the patient that one-on-one, that FaceTime, I should say.
Right.
Yeah. And again, if anyone has questions about that, I mean, that's one thing I really enjoy helping individuals with, how to navigate that appointment, either that one or your follow-up, so that you feel that you have really had the opportunity to talk with the doctor and to express what you need to express. Thank you.
I'll ask another question real quick because it's something that, so as a physician, no, we're not getting any kind, but as a physician, what are your thoughts when you walk into a room and someone has, so what's happened with me since going through breast cancer? I've had other people to reach out to me and say, can you get some questions or go with my auntie and me to her doctor's appointment? So I know I have had people say that their physicians don't allow anyone, don't really like to have anybody else. I think it was COVID too, but I don't want to have a lot of people in the room with them when they're with their patient. So what are your thoughts about that? And should that be something that person, is that a red flag, or is that just something that they kind of talk to that particular facility about?
This is an awesome question. And it's going to be specific for each doctor and each office. No one scenario is going to describe everyone. So sometimes what may happen, let me start from like the scenario that is the least, helpful. When there are other people accompanying the patient, if the individuals kind of like take over, and literally I've had times the family members and friends take over, and you're kind of like, okay, well, I want to talk to the patient. Sometimes it's not helpful for the patient. So the individuals may take over, and literally they may have questions or things that are not helpful, or you looking at the dynamic and it's not positive. They may be condemning the patient. They may make the patient guilty. I told you should do this. Why didn't you do this? And then it's not easy to help that patient to, have quiet time. So if the support people are helpful, it's great. Sometimes there are questions that we need to ask, honestly, that are very personal. Again, it's like, we don't necessarily know what this relationship is. And it's not as easy to create an exit to get that private time, because maybe you have to ask some questions about sexual history. Maybe you have to ask some questions about something. Maybe someone is in a relationship that's not safe. So it's not easy. And remember, we only have 15, 20 minutes to try to do this. It's not always easy. When an individual is supportive, the support person, they're great. It's wonderful, because sometimes they're like, I'm just here to listen because I'm going to take notes. Or, Sam comes home every time, and Doc, Sam doesn't remember what you said, or I told Sam to write it down. You told him to eat 3 times a day. He came back and said, I'm supposed to eat many weeks. And he's like, what? So that support person can be very helpful. Literally, so get a feel for it, and it's always great to say, hi, I brought this person with me. This person is taking notes for me. I like to do that. And the doctor will say, hey, yep, that's great, what have you, or may establish it. If I need to ask something that's really sensitive, what's the best way you want to do this? Point blank. I've had some people with their besties come in, and I already knew in the beginning, it's like, I need to literally ask some questions that are sensitive. And I'm like, okay, hi, Sarah, is this your sister? Is this your friend? No, this is my bestie. Is it possible that maybe I can get the first 5 minutes with you, and then she can come back in? No. And then it's like, okay. And I ask the questions, and sometimes they're like, so if you're going to bring someone in to support, have that discussion. And I would say, encourage people to say, okay, listen, the doctor may need to talk to me privately. So if I give you the look or give you the thing and say, hey, come back in, do that, or let me talk to the doctor for the first 5 minutes and then let me bring you in. Because it can be real dicey. And sometimes it's what we need to discuss or examine the patient. And we need to be able to do that completely and fully. And we can't always do that when there are people in the room, especially if it's not a parent or if it's not a spouse or a significant other. Does that help? It gets to be, it can be real dicey. I mean, honestly, it doesn't happen often, but it can be. Great question. Is this helping again? You know, I say you all have me. I mean, honestly, how often do you get, you know, you all
Yes,
have
you are
to ask
very,
these
you are
questions?
helping a lot.
Yeah,
You are.
okay.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I had reconstructive surgery at the breast cancer. My question is, should I keep or visits with the surgeon? It's been like almost 8 years. Or should I leave it to my primary care physician to know what to look for in case something doesn't look right? I don't know.
Talk to both of them because it depends. If, for example, if you're in a medical center where those specialties, those colleagues, there is a electronic record and they have the ability to communicate and it's
Yeah.
easy, they may say, okay, yep, you know, the primary care doctor may say, you know, we got it good. I can, you know, send a memo to Jeff. You know, I'm just using some names, what have you.
Yeah.
But if it's not, again,
Right.
talk to your specialist to say, Doc, I'm 8 years out. What do you recommend at this time? And then he or she
Okay.
will let you know, and then you can, you know, confirm and discuss with your primary. Does that
Okay.
help?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great question. See, these are good questions. Anybody, I mean, Dr. Katrina, you tell us because I have to be
Yeah,
mindful
that's
of
an
time.
excellent question because I that question that she asked, I asked the same thing because you know, of course, because I have reconstruction, I have implants, and I will be coming on. Okay, October will be 10 years. 10-year survival, but I got diagnosed in 2013, but I had the implants. Yeah, it'll still be 10 years. So I did the same thing. I asked my primary, just saw her. And the thing about it with my primary, she was actually my breast doctor at Johns Hopkins, and she left and she got her own practice. And I followed her because she knew my history and everything. So I'm just so glad that I still have her. So I asked her, what do you think I should do? Because I said, because they don't last forever. You know, I have to get them switched. So that's what she told me. She said, they gave me a card when I got, you know, when I got my reconstruction. She said, look in the back of that card, and
Right.
then, you know, just talk to your, you know, plastic surgeon, ask them, you know, exactly when, because it's supposed to be about up to like 10 years. So I don't want to go past it, even though I'm not having any problems. I'm still not trying to keep them in as, you know, longer than I'm supposed to. So
Right.
that was a question. I asked that same question just a couple of weekends ago to my primary physician. So that's a good, that was good.
Because you have the card to tell what's in your implants, what type of cell.
Yeah,
whatever-
what type and everything, yeah. Because when
yeah.
I saw the news about the certain implants and once recalled, oh my God, I was freaking out. I went to my doctor and I was like, you got to tell me, you know, pull my books. You got to tell me what's
Yeah.
in me. And do I need to take it out? Do I need to get another surgery? What I need to do? So they made sure they got my records, told me exactly what I had. It wasn't the recall ones and all that, you know, told me all the symptoms I would get for the type of cancer they said you can get from that type of implants that they recall. So I was on top of it because I flew to my doctor and asking questions and making sure. And actually, I went and got an MRI too to make sure my implants was okay. Yeah.
Dr. Katrina, any topic, I'm sorry, any topic that you, I think I covered everything that you, am I unmuted? That we talked about that you wanted me to cover.
Yeah,
Anything
you covered everything.
Okay.
Excellent. No one else has any questions before we wrap up?
No questions, just another thing to keep your wellness visits, no matter what comes, keep them, because you just keep them. That's all I'm gonna say.
Exactly. Jack was like me, ask questions. I mean, you know, don't sit there and be like, oh, whatever, you know your body, you know, just don't be afraid to ask questions. Because I know once I had got diagnosed, you know, they were saying, and I had to get my, you know, filing full, you know, OBGYN. And I don't know, some doctors, that's also to ask you, why do they change to pap smears every 3 years? I mean, they start saying you don't need to get them yearly, you can get them every 3 years and all that. So I was at the 3-year range, and then they still told me, no, you got to wait another 3 years for HPV. And I was like going crazy because I just was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I actually was so upset. I went out to my car, cried, and I was like, I actually thought it was the insurance. I said it has to be the insurance. I think it was the doctors. And so what I did was I called insurance and they said, no, we pay for you to get a pap smear every year. So they said, so if that particular facility or doctor is telling you cannot, then you need to you just need to get another doctor. And that's exactly what I did.
So the pap smear is the cervical cancer screening, and it's one part of what we call the well woman exam. So it includes the pap smear, your breast
Right.
exam, and some other things depending on your age. So like, for example, when I trained 2.5 decades ago, we were still doing pap smears every year. That was what we call the standard of care based on the science that we had at the time. As we continue and studies are done every year, we get more information. We know that we update, we revise it. So not every woman needs a pap smear, which is a cervical cancer screening test every year. And we go by certain characteristics of what we call risk assessment, just like when we talk about mammogram. So if, for example, we look at these criteria, woman is this age or this, especially, let's say, for example, she's in a monogamous relationship, she's been there, she's had the previous 3 pap smears have been normal, there's no evidence of any abnormal growth, she doesn't have increased risk. So she will go into a different sequence or time interval for that pap smear. So those things will be updated or updated. And now we know that not every woman needs it, but now if someone is on a 3-year cycle, certainly if something changes in the history, that's when you raise your hand, go to the doctor and say, yes, we were here, and the doctor will look and say, yep, we can definitely go ahead and do it then. So the insurance will pay for it, but according to your criteria, your physical exam, if the doctor was saying at that time you didn't have to have it, then they were like, okay, you were in that sequence and everything was according to the path. Does that help? Is that?
Yeah, that sounds, it helps, but I was concerned because my oncologist had told me that they wanted me to get a full exam, and I just was diagnosed with breast cancer. So you don't think I should be in the category that I should be getting yearly pap smears?
I can honestly, because I'm not looking exactly at everything, I can't say definitively, but what I just want to give the overall to say, right, because, and again, right, like in your situation, when you have a new diagnosis, that's something that is a different thing. And then sometimes in certain centers, they may say, well, we want to do everything here. So I just want to ensure you say it wasn't anything that was necessarily, oh, they put you off. If you were in that cycle, if a woman's in that cycle, that may be at first they say, okay, and then they follow up. What is your specific need at this time? Does that help? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Great question.
Okay, so we're at 8:10, so no one has any more questions for our dynamic Dr. Angela Harden-Matt. So, Dr. Angela, do you mind giving out your information if someone wants to get in contact with you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to give you this one site that's going to give you social media, to give you the email and everything when you want to get to that. And it's if somebody can type that in the chat for me, please, maybe. It's www.drangela360.com. So again, when you go to type it in, a screen will come up with icons, and it'll see ones like contact. So that should come up, email, phone. That'll be like, yep, that's it. Facebook, LinkedIn, and some others. So drangela360.com. Thanks.
Awesome. I want to thank you so much. You had excellent presentation. Thank you so much, Dr. Angela, for coming on so raw. And B. Jacqueline Jeter, you just took it out off the park. Your presentation, your testimony, and everything. It just, and always touching, because how you reached out to me after I shared my story, and I was, every time you reached out to me, I was checking on you, praying for you, and so love you, girl. So thank y'all both so much for presenting tonight. Great.
How can someone make a donation to Maine if they want to do that? Can you put the website up there?
Yes. Okay. Let me put the website up.
Because remember, people, she's nonprofit. So, and the work that she's doing is amazing. Because mammograms are definitely not enough.
Yes, they're definitely not enough. All right, thank you, everybody, for joining tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Katrina. Thank you, Dr. Angela.
Thank you for the presentations, both of y'all, and thank everybody for joining tonight. Have a joyous rest of your evening and week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, good night, everyone.